Well, it is sad and it's nostalgic too, especially since we're doing so many old things in the show now. You know, we're doing songs that I haven't done in some of them 20 years.
George Strait is a country music legend who personifies the spirit and innovation of the genre. His name is immortalized in country music history. For good reason, he is considered the undisputed monarch of country music. He marked the history of country music with his distinctive and memorable voice, the creation of classic songs, and his authentic creativity. In comparison to other country music singers, how does he stand out? In what ways has his music contributed to the development of the genre? Come plunge with us into At 43, where the son of George Strait confirms our worst suspicions. George Harvey Strait Sr. was born to John Bryan Strait Sr. and Doris Jean Kuzer on May 18, 1952. Just like the rest of the globe, they couldn't help but fall head over heels for him. His guitar music would win over millions of people like a cowboy's song. Beyond his musical talents, he is a storyteller and ambassador for the folklore that originated in America's rural areas. In contrast to the ostentatious country artists like Dolly Parton who were thriving in Nashville at the time, George would often go on stage as a lone ranger offering an honest side to country music. An essence that makes you feel all warm and fuzzy inside and brings to mind images of honky-tonks, horseback riding, scotch, and distant trails. It is not surprising that he is hailed as the king of country music. His voice was a source of solace and excitement for those who heard it. The tunes that George created were like paintings. He didn't merely sing them. So what parts of his background and experiences influenced his distinctive musical style? How did his childhood influence his musical approach? George was born and raised in Pearsall, close to Frio County, on a ranch that his father owned on 2,000 acres in Big Wells, Texas, in addition to teaching mathematics to junior high school students. He and his family worked the ranch tirelessly on weekends and during the lengthy summer holidays. Nonetheless, fate had different intentions for him. While he was in 4th grade, his mother and sister Pensy left the family. After spending time with his father as a musically gifted youngster, he and his younger brother John Buddy Juanar began their musical careers at Pearsall High School. In a garage rock band named The Stoics, he discovered his first groove. His ardor was kindled by the music of bands like the Beatles and others from the British invasion era. Despite George's initial enthusiasm for rock and roll, he eventually found himself captivated by country music, particularly the songs of Hank Thompson, Merle Haggard, and others. In his youth, live concerts were the norm, and even if country radio wasn't his customary choice, it all contributed to the development of his distinctive style. George wed his high school love, Norma Voss, in Mexico on December 4, 1971, after they graduated from high school. He became an infantryman in the U.S. Army that very year. He would try out for the Army-sponsored country band Rambling Country, which went by the name Santee when they performed off-base, while stationed at Schofield Barracks in Hawaii with the 25th Infantry Division. Jennifer, George, and Norma's first child, was born when they were stationed in Hawaii. He served his nation honorably for 4 years, from 1971 to 1975, and was promoted to the rank of corporal. While serving in the Army, he continued to pursue his passion for music and develop his performance abilities, laying the groundwork for his renowned career in country music. In his time as a college student, George began his musical career with the band Stony Ridge, which he rechristened the Ace in the Hole Band. They gained a regional following and became increasingly successful as they played at honky-tonks and bars across central and southern Texas. George continued to elude financial success despite releasing many singles, some of which were penned by him. George kept busy during the day tending to the cattle ranch that belonged to his family, but he could see that there was a way out of his current predicament. The day he became friends with E.R.V. Woolsey, a pub owner with ties in the music business, altered his story. Although Woolsey assisted in arranging for George and his band to perform for industry insiders, the enthusiasm in their music eventually faded as a result of marketing problems related to their Western swing sound. Despite this setback, George persisted in making repeated journeys to Nashville in pursuit of a record deal. After encountering rejection at every step, he contemplated giving up on music altogether. However, the encouragement he received from his wife ultimately convinced him to give it another year. In 1981, he received a recording contract offer from major label MCA Records, proving that his decision had paid off. His band joined him on his solo journey as his fame skyrocketed when he was signed for a single song. George had a breakout decade in the 80s when his debut song, Unwound, released by MCA Records, reached number 6 on Billboard's Hot Country Songs chart in 1981 and paved the way for more success. His first studio album, Strait Country, featured the song. In contrast to the popular pop-influenced country music of the day, Strait Country was praised by reviewers as a fresh traditionalist breakthrough. Fool-Hearted Memory became George's first #1 single, and Amarillo by Morning peaked at number 5 on the Western Ballad chart. The former was written and performed by Terry Stafford in 1973 and would go on to become one of Strait's trademark songs. Both were featured on his critically lauded 1982 album, Straight from the Heart. When headliner Eddie Rabbitt got sick with the flu in 1983, George made his rodeo debut. Since then, he has become a mainstay at the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo, performing for over 1 million fans in over 20 appearances. His series of 5 hits from 1983–1984 was only one of 17 that he achieved during the decade. The 1990s were a banner year for George, who had 2 #1 singles from his 10th studio album, Livin' It Up, Love Without End, Amen, being his first single to reach the top spot for many weeks, and I've Come to Expect It From You, his first single to go platinum. Each single topped the charts for 5 weeks in 1990. In 1991, Chill of an Early Fall was released and was well received. According to Entertainment Weekly, this album represented a change for Strait, who had been accused of repeating himself in his earlier efforts, as he began to produce new material. Although it had 31 consecutive top 10 hits, including the #1 singles If I Know Me and You Know Me Better Than That, their rendition of Lovesick Blues, which reached number 24, broke the run. As it peaked at number 4, the record ended his string of 8 albums that had reached the top of the charts. Holding My Own, his 1992 album, did not have any #1s, but did have 2 top 5 singles, So Much Like My Dad being one of them. The soundtrack to his 1992 film Pure Country, in which he played the lead role, was his most commercially successful studio album to date, topping the country album charts and reaching number 6 on the Billboard 200. It featured the singles Heartland, I Cross My Heart, and When Did You Stop Loving Me, among others. He maintained his successful run with his 1993 album Easy Come, Easy Go, which contained the singles I'd Like to Have That One Back, The Man in Love with You, and the album's title tune, which peaked at number 1 on the Billboard 200. Blue Clear Sky topped the charts during its first week of release in 1996. Carrying Your Love With Me reached number 1 on the Billboard 200 for the first time in George's career, and the following 4 albums, 1994, Lead On, Blue Clear Sky, 1997, and 1998's One Step at a Time, all reached number 1. Notable hits from this album run by Strait include You Can't Make a Heart Love Somebody, Carried Away, One Night at a Time, and I Just Want to Dance With You, among others. Along with 2 new songs, I Know She Still Loves Me, which peaked at #5, and Check Yes or No, which reached #1. On his 1995 4-disc boxed set, Straight Out of the Box, he also released a career retrospective album at this time. He was voted the CMA's top male vocalist in 1997 and 1998, and the album went on to become the second best-selling box set of all time with 8 million units sold in the U.S. Strait was the headlining act of the George Strait Country Music Festival, which ran from 1997 to 2001 and featured performances by Tim McGraw, Faith Hill, Alan Jackson, Kenny Chesney, and more. Despite playing a very modest number of dates, typically no more than 20 per year, the festival was able to secure its position as the 9th biggest grossing tour of 1998, all in an effort to present these talents to the widest possible audience. Always Never the Same was his 1999 album that closed out the decade. It reached number 6 on the Billboard 200 and peaked at number 2 on the country charts, matching the crossover success of Pure Country. The record featured the singles What Do You Say to That, While You Were Away, and the number 1 hit Write This Down. Critics were divided about the album, but Entertainment Weekly noted that he could now record the lightest material and make it fly on the radio with his grace. He continued his popularity into the new century, having achieved 17 number 1 songs on the Billboard Country Airplay charts over the decade. The self-titled album that George released in 2000 peaked at number 7 on the Billboard 200 album charts and number 1 on the country charts, but it failed to yield any number 1 singles and was the first studio album in George's career that did not receive platinum certification. Singles Go On and If You Can Do Anything Else were taken from the album and both reached the top 5. Rolling Stone praised the album, saying that it stayed true to the formula, but adds a few twists that make it superior to his last few releases. The Road Less Traveled was released in May 2001 and received largely excellent reviews. Some reviews deemed it an experimental album due to the vocal processing it included. It had 3 songs, 2 of which went on to become top hits. One of them was She'll Leave You With a Smile, which peaked at number 23 on the Billboard Hot 100 and was Strait's best position on the list. The other 2, Living and Living Well, both made it into the top 30 on the Billboard Hot 100. The track Run reached 34th place on the Billboard 100 and peaked at number 2. He dropped 2 albums that year, 2003. The final Houston livestock show and rodeo to ever be held at the iconic Astrodome was captured on the album For the Last Time, Live from the Astrodome. With 68,266 paying attendees, the show shattered the previous record established by Latin sensation Selena in 1995, which had stood at over 67,000. Jennifer was just 13 years old when George lost her. His family was there for him through all of this, and the world mourned with him. In the midst of this sad period in their life, his wife Norma was a guiding light, offering solace to her husband and discovering solace in him. As a unit, they weathered the tempest. In the face of the impending emotional storm, George found strength in her love, which allowed him to persevere. No matter how bad things got, Norma was always there to reassure him that he wasn't alone in his grief. Their shared memories of Jennifer brought them comfort, and their unbreakable link gave them strength as they leant on one another. Embracing the love that had gotten them through the tough times, they found solace in the simple joys of being together. George found solace in Norma's unfaltering support, which gave him hope amongst the chaos of his loss. Their bond became stronger in the wake of their loss, strengthened by the shared experience of anguish. As they embraced one another, they discovered a comforting sense of mutual understanding that went beyond mere words. George and Norma were both strengthened as they worked through their loss. Their love was strengthened by the hardships they had faced side by side. George's rehabilitation was built upon Norma's steadfast support, which helped him get through his worst days with her unfaltering dedication and calm strength. Released on October 3, 2006, George's new album, It Just Comes Natural, commemorated his 30th year in the music profession. Jimmy Buffett's Shrimp Boat Sound Studio in Key West, Florida, was used to record the album. This studio was previously used to record Troubadour, so it's safe to say that there were no allergy attacks when they were there. 15 new tracks were included. 2 of the album's tracks were co-written by his longtime buddy and songwriter Dean Dillon. The reviews were overwhelmingly good. The following reviews were given 4 stars. If ever there was a natural in country music, it's George. People. He continues to make such consistent quality look easy. USA Today. and similar criticism from people. "Give It Away" was the album's lead single, and its success made country music icon Whispering Bill Anderson the only songwriter to achieve a #1 single in 5 separate decades. Music video "It Just Comes Natural," the title tune, peaked at number 42 on the Billboard Hot 100. Wrapped became Strait's 55th #1 song overall in 2007, when it peaked at #1 on the Mediabase 24/7's country music charts. George was the featured performer on a 23-date stadium tour that year, which ran from January to April. The concert also included country music icon Ronnie Milsap and rising star Taylor Swift. He dropped a new album on April 1, 2008, called Troubadour. The 12-song CD featured a duet with Patty Loveless and a tune written by longtime collaborator Dean Dillon. With its debut at number 19 on both the radio and records and Billboard charts, "I Saw God Today" serves as the album's lead single. At number 4 all-time in country music, it's also George's highest debut single to date. With first-week sales of over 160,000 copies, Troubadour soared to the top of Billboard's top 200 album rankings. The third single, "River of Love," came out in 2009 and became his 57th hit to reach number 1. George was presented with the Artist of the Decade award by Garth Brooks, who had previously been named ACM Artist of the Decade, in April 2009, when the Academy of Country Music recognized Strait with that accolade. He was the featured performer at the first event held in the brand-new Dallas Cowboys Stadium in Arlington, Texas, in June of that year. People are wondering if we will still have unadulterated country music once George quits, because he is growing elderly. The birth of Bubba J&R coincided with a period when Garth Brooks, Shania Twain, Faith Hill, and other pop country performers were all the rage. Many were worried that pure country music would soon be extinct, but Bubba Jr. chose to pick up where his father left off. With the help of his son Bubba, George Strait started penning tunes in 2009. Twang has 3 tracks recorded with him maintaining his cowboy look. He embodied the quintessential country look with his signature denim, Western-style shirts, large buckle belts, and cowboy hat. They joined together on stage to play the song "Arkansas Dave" from the album. The public's concerns that country music might die out after George departs were alleviated by this. Henry, who is Bubba's grandson, has the same blessing as his grandpa and has also taken up performing. The Straits have left an indelible mark on country music that will reverberate through the ages and touch listeners' hearts and fields. George was named by Billboard the best country musician of the last 25 years in 2010. George has 59 #1 singles to his credit, including 2 from his 2011 album "Here for a Good Time" and "Love's Gonna Make It All Right," both of which were released on September 6, 2011. The third single from the album, "Drinkin' Man," peaked at number 37 and did not do as well. For his 2013 album, "Love Is Everything," which came out on May 14th, he dropped the single "Give It All We Got Tonight" in October of 2012. As he was still 60 years old, the song became his 60th #1 hit on all country charts, according to his label's 60 for 60 Inches campaign. In May of 2013, the song peaked at #1 on the Mediabase charts. Following "I Believe" on the album, the following track peaked at number 50 on the US charts. This was his first single to not reach the top 40 on the Country Airplay chart. Awarded CMA Entertainer of the Year in 2013, Strait was the recipient. Billboard honored Strait with the Legend of Live Award during the 10th annual Billboard Touring Awards in November 2013. This accolade recognizes the best performing artist in the concert business, as measured by Billboard's box score chart and box office results. With this honor, George becomes the first country musician to ever be named Billboard's top touring performer. The 2015 ACM Awards were held on April 19, 2015, and Strait was a special guest there performing "Let It Go" and "All My Ex-Lives" in Texas. George would go on to appear as one of 30 musicians on Forever Country, a tribute album commemorating 50 years of the CMA Awards, which included a mashup of "Take Me Home," "Country Roads," On the Road Again, and I Will Always Love You. In honor of a tequila brand made by a business in which George had invested, the single Código was released by George. Cowboy Rides Away tour tickets were gone in 1 hour for both stadium and arena shows. The tour began in Lubbock, Texas on January 18, 2013, and it was split into 2 legs. The first leg included 21 shows, while the second leg had 26 concerts. On June 7, 2014, the tour came to a close in Arlington, Texas. The Ace in the Hole Band, which has been supporting Strait on tour for a long period, consisted of 11 members. Opening for the 2013 run was none other than Martina McBride, Jason Aldean, Eric Church, Martina McBride, Miranda Lambert, Little Big Town, Vince Gill, Leanne Womack, Merle Haggard, Chris Young, Ronnie Dunn, Luke Bryan, Tim McGraw, Kenny Chesney, Alan Jackson, and Asleep at the Wheel were the opening acts for the second leg of the tour that he launched in 2014. On June 7th, several of these artists came together for the tour's last performance in Arlington, Texas, in front of 104,793 spectators, the second highest number of concertgoers ever recorded in the U.S. By far outnumbering the 87,500 spectators who packed into the New Orleans Superdome to see the Rolling Stones on December 5, 1981, the concert shattered the 33-year record for the biggest indoor concert ever, with a gross of $18 million. John Byron Buddy Strait, George's older brother, passed away at 58 years of age on April 10, 2009. The Wrangler National Patriot Initiative, run by the VF Corporation, is an effort to honor and support the families of America's injured and dead military heroes. George has been the spokesperson for this program. According to George, he has long been associated with the Wrangler brand, and he was eager to lend his support to the cause of helping wounded and fallen American soldiers and their families. He became a grandpa in February 2012 with the birth of George Harvey Strait III, a son to George Strait Jr. and Tamara. George co-founded the Vaqueros del Mar Cowboys of the Sea invitational golf tournament and concert with his longtime friend and business partner Tom Cusick. The event takes place every year at Tapatio Springs Resort, a resort in the Texas Hill Country near Bourne, Texas, and is attended by thousands of people. For the benefit of injured troops, servicewomen, and their families, the Invitational raises funds for David Faherty's Troops First Foundation. More than $5 million have been collected through the activity since they started in 2012. The Texas Legislative Conference, an organization of influential political and economic figures from around the state, honored George Strait as the 2018 Texan of the Year in January 2018. After Hurricane Harvey's devastating floods, Strait was recognized for his fundraising efforts. After Conway Twitty's 40 #1 singles on Billboard's Hot Country Songs list were exceeded, George became the artist with more #1 singles than Twitty. 60 of his songs have reached the top spot. In 2013, Give It All We Got Tonight surpassed both Twitty's and the previous record for #1. He has more #1 songs than any other performer in the history of recorded music. When Strait developed festival-style tours and built a 360-degree format, he became famous for his touring career as well. The Strait tours, for instance, made $99 million in just 3 years. In June 2014, he broke the North American record for biggest indoor concert with a crowd of 104,793 at At&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas, during his final stop of the Cowboy Rides Away tour. Strait is among the all-time greats in the music industry, with record sales of over 120 million records. With 33 albums certified platinum, he holds the record for most by an artist according to the Recording Industry Association of America, RIAA. On top of that, George has 38 albums that have been certified gold and 13 that have been multi-platinum. Pure Country, his 1992 album, was his best-selling record, selling 6 million copies. In 1995, George released Straight Out of the Box, his highest certified album. It was a box set with 4 CDs and sold 2 million copies, making it 8 times platinum. The Recording Industry Association of America ranks George as the 12th best-selling album recording artist in the U.S., with over 70 million records sold nationwide. Of all musical genres, George ranks 11th for the most #1 albums, and he also owns the record for most #1 singles, gold albums, platinum albums, and multi-platinum albums in country music history. With more albums certified gold or platinum than any other artist in music history, he trails only Elvis Presley and the Beatles. His lifetime album sales in the U.S. alone amount to 70 million, which has earned him the title of 12th best-selling musician in American history. With 60 #1 songs across all charts and genres since 2013, Strait holds the record for most #1 hits ever. He is also the first artist in music history to have a top 10 hit every year for 30 years. Additionally, he is now 5 songs shy of Eddie Arnold's record of 92 top 10 singles, making him the second most successful artist of all time. Strait holds the record for the most CMA nominations in a career, as well as the most consecutive ones. He has won 22 CMA awards, including Entertainer of the Year in 1989 and 1990, and again in 2013. He is also the only artist to win the top honor in 3 different decades. The record for most CMA awards is held by him as of 2009. When it comes to Academy of Country Music Award nominations and winners, George also owns both of those titles. At the 40th Country Music Awards, he accepted a replica plaque commemorating his 2006 induction into the Country Music Hall of Fame while singing Give It Away, his most recent #1 single. Inducted into the Hall of Fame while continuing to create and produce records that topped the charts, he joined Eddie Arnold as the only artist to do so in 1966. According to Billboard, he is the best country music musician of the last quarter of a century. He was honored with the Artist of the Decade for the 2000s award at the Academy of Country Music Awards in October 2008. Garth Brooks, the previous champion, gave him the trophy. After becoming the oldest and only performer to win Entertainer of the Year 3 times in a row in 2013, he joined an exclusive club of legendary recipients. In addition to being the greatest gap between victories for that award, the win itself is historic. When it comes to Male Vocalists of the Year, George is tied with Merle Haggard for the most. As the final performance of the first half of his 2-year farewell tour, Strait played before an audience of 70,000 at the Alamo Dome in San Antonio, Texas, on June 1, 2013. George Strait Day will be celebrated annually in Texas on May 18th, the birthday of Strait, according to Governor Rick Perry, who was accompanied by First Lady Anita Thigpen Perry. Among Rolling Stone's 200 greatest singers of all time, George was rated 156th in 2023. There will be no more waiting for George Strait. During his performance at Lucas Oil Stadium, home of the Indianapolis Colts of the National Football League, the country music icon announced the release of Cowboys and Dreamers, his 31st studio album via MCA. On May 4th, George performed for 2 hours to an audience of about 51,000 people, according to representatives. "We got some new stuff too. I'm going to throw in throughout the night. I broke down and did another record, and I'm going to play a few of those for you tonight," he informed the group. In addition to 3 Drinks Behind, the 71-year-old Texan sang Honky Tonk Hall of Fame and You Don't Know What You're Missing, 2 tracks that will appear on the next album, joined by Chris Stapleton. Following the tragic deaths of several members of his industry family, including his longtime manager Eugene Irvine "Ear V. Woolsey," Ace in the Hole member Gene Elders, and tour manager Tom Foote, Strait made his triumphant return to the stage at the 2024 Indianapolis show, one of only 10 performances scheduled for the year. From the platform, he said, "It's so good to be back," adding, "Man, it's been 6 months and that's too long." "The past few months have been difficult, but music helps get through it," Strait said in honor of his friends he lost. "Much obliged for your appearance. We've had an absolutely fantastic time tonight," he said as he concluded the 6-song encore dedicated to them. "I appreciate you tuning in. Before you miss any more of our engaging videos, Subscribe to our channel.